I now call on Daniel Johnson to speak to and to move Amendment 12388.1. Up to 5 minutes, please.
Indeed, and I move the amendment in my name. So when the Conservatives tabled the motion last week, it's clear what they wanted. They wanted a big bust-up, big debate, big dividing lines. But let me try and strike a note of consensus, because I think we can all agree on one thing in the Chamber this afternoon. Douglas Lumsden desperately needs Jeremy Hunt's phone number. One text message. That's all it would have taken. Should I table this motion? Is it a good idea? And it would have spared the blushes and the rather awkward argument that we heard in the opening speech this afternoon. Of course, Douglas Ross doesn't need Jeremy Hunt's mobile phone number. He just communicates with the leadership via letters from the Whip's office if reports of the fact that he's going to vote against his own government's budget are true. But the reality is that while Douglas Lumsden tries to talk about economic growth, the simple truth is this, is that through the mini-budget, enthusiastically backed by the Scottish Conservatives, what did we get? Market kiosk, the pound tumbling, interest rates soaring, the biggest ever one-day drop in 30-year gilts, half of mortgage products pulled and culminated in the Bank of England intervening to prevent the collapse of pension markets. Chaos and incompetence. That is the true hallmark of economic governance under this Conservative government. 14 years of erratic economic decision-making. And is it any wonder that the UK is blighted by low growth and high inequality? It's what the Resolution Foundation, just in a moment, Mr Whittle, is what the Resolution Foundation described as a stagnation nation, with the UK undergoing 15 years of economic decline. Since the Conservatives entered government, the UK GDP growth has been in the bottom third of the OECD countries. The UK has grown at an average over the period. Sorry, if the UK had grown at just the OECD average, our economy would be £140 billion bigger. And that has real-world consequences. It's the equivalent of £5,000 per household every single year. That's the real cost of economic chaos under this Conservative government. Mr Whittle, happy to give way.
Brian Whittle.
A very good rant, can I say. But I wonder what the member would say to the fact that the OBR have said since 2010 Britain has had the highest GDP growth of all the G7 countries, including Japan, Germany and France.
Daniel Johnson.
The OECD figures speak for themselves. We've had 7 quarters of economic decline in terms of GDP per head. If Mr Whittle wants to choose partial statistics, that's his, because the reality is this. We have flat growth, investment down, taxes up. And if Mr Whittle wants to call this a rant, fair enough. Because the reality is that working people pay the price for that incompetence. Happy to give way to Mr Kerr.
Stephen Kerr.
Is Daniel Johnson going to talk about all this stuff that he's talking about, or is he going to talk about the stuff in the motion? Is he going to talk about what Labour's policy is on oil and gas, or is he embarrassed about it because he should be?
They are the same thing. It's the Conservatives that want to base this on economic growth, and that is exactly what I'm doing. But let's come back to the notion, because I'm equally confused by the SNP. At least the Conservative had the good grace to chop and change their position over the course of a week. In the space of a day, we've had Stephen Flynn arguing against a windfall tax, only to have a motion in front of us arguing for it. And which is it? You know, frankly, we have the unconscionable and unfathomable position from the SNP that they oppose a tax against energy giants making billions of pounds worth of profit, while they're asking Scots earning just £28,000 and more to pay more tax in the rest of the UK. That is the simple choice that we have. So a choice of either helping Scots with struggling bills or helping energy giants. Happy to give way to Gillian Moore.
Minister.
It has been said by his party colleagues that a windfall tax would be supporting new nuclear in the rest of the UK. Does Daniel Johnson agree that it should actually be diverted to support renewables growth in Scotland? And could he commit to that?
So let
In closing, Mr Johnson.
Let me explain. GB Energy will create 50,000 clean power jobs in Scotland. Investment in Grangemouth, investment in ports. It will set up GB Energy, headquartered here in Scotland. That's the investment, ring-fenced and a windfall tax time-limited. The simple reality is this. We've had 5 Prime Ministers, 7 Chancellors, 11 economic growth plans and 3 different positions on a windfall tax from the Conservatives. It's time for change. Thank you.
Thank you.